Hello everyone, Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense. Thank you for watching. I have another Monday quarterback video for you. I'm going to play the entirety of the video and then I'll go back and talk about things that are going on to better explain what's happening and talk about things that I think that were done right and are done wrong. Without further ado, here we go.
One of the candidates who assisted a 245 shooting at 5975 University. 10 for, yeah, 5 ago, there was a subject that was shot and left on foot. Again, it's a hot call. Is there a Sergeant 10 for?
Hey, well, can the victim say if it was a 2-door or 4-door Honda?
Say we probably be a good stop, depending on what we got.
He's not being very cooperative at the moment. He's pointing westbound on you, possibly on the north curb line, but he's not giving us much. He doesn't want to tell us anything.
Then 82 West 1.
Okay, 10-4. Yeah, we're following the vehicle westbound on Dwight, heading up towards Croft right now. Might be worth a look.
Straight sign.
Hey, 31, 6 Mary Edward David, 283.
10 for.
Overheads are on. Roger.
There's 29 in current on a 2010 Honda registered off of 8th
area,
Street.
5975 University, behind the food for less. The suspects are going to be driving a...
All right, 2 are out, running northbound towards El Cajon.
On 54th Street.
10 for running north.
There'll be a 245 shooting.
Running with a gun in his hand northbound towards El Cajon.
All right, just getting El Cajon now, made a westbound turn El Cajon.
Westbound on El Cajon.
Still running westbound, coming up to, well, still westbound, south curve line, right by the Cafe Blend.
Westbound south curb line by the Cafe Glen.
Looks like a short sleeve shirt, shorts, and a baseball hat. Still has a gun in his hand.
With a gun in his hand.
Table and officers are confirming.
All right, still westbound, south curve line.
Westbound on the south curb line.
Running across the street now, north curb line, El Cajon Boulevard.
North curb line, El Cajon Boulevard.
That's food lot,
across
cops are in pursuit.
Units are behind him, still running northbound in the parking lot to the fast food restaurant. Can't get to any of it now.
So here for the...
Northbound in the parking lot.
3 units behind him, still making his way eastbound behind the business.
I think the units are okay with it.
Eastbound.
Now on the east side of the business, wrapping back towards El Cajon Boulevard.
Your phone?
114 Victor.
Yeah, I'll grab it.
Back
Hold on.
towards CCB.
This is the Yoshinoya. He's just running around this building here. 3 officers in pursuit. West side now.
On the west side.
Running through the drive-thru, just tripped and fell. 3 units are on him.
10 for.
Still running. Now we're going to be on the north side. He's given up now. Proned out on the north side of the business. Threw the gun.
Or he threw the gun and he's
Shots fired. Fired.
Shots fired. Shots fired.
Shots fired. We're going to be on the north side of the Yoshinoya. in the green belt area right behind the business.
Don't move! Get on the ground! Get on the ground! Drop the gun! Get on the ground! Drop the gun! Drop the gun! Don't point it at me! Drop the gun! Drop the gun! Drop the weapon! Drop the weapon! Drop the weapon! Get on the ground! Get on the ground! Get on the ground! Stop! 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 Guys, get back! Slow it down! Slow it down! Get on the ground! Get on the ground! Get on the ground! Drop the gun! Drop the gun! Don't point it at me! Drop the gun! Drop the gun! Drop the gun now! Shots fired, shots fired, shots fired, shots fired. Get on the ground! Get on the ground! Drop the gun! Drop the gun! Don't point it at me! Drop the gun! Drop the gun! Drop the gun! I will shoot! Drop the gun now! Shots fired, shots fired, shots fired, shots fired. Get your hands behind your back! Hands behind your back! Hands behind your back! Hands behind your back!
Go hands on. Roll over.
Roll over now!
Go hands on. Go hands on. Hold on. Just wait. Roll over your stomach.
Get on your stomach!
$31 rolling medic, subject hit.
All right. Let's go back into this. Well, so one of the things that at the beginning that kind of came to mind, and it's not really that big of a deal, but for these few agencies out there that actually have air support and have the nice luxury of thermal imaging to follow, I really think that it would be of benefit to those agencies if they would use some type of thermal marker on the roof of the squad cars, because unless you can actually make out the push bumper or the spotlight on the side of the vehicle, like when you are on white hot setting, like what you see here, if it weren't for these two things, this car would look just like any other car. Like you can't see graphics on the side, you can't see police written on the side in thermal. You sure as shit can't see any flashing lights on top of the car. Um, and for these agencies who can afford helicopters and the pilots and afford the thermal imaging, there's no reason why they can't afford thermal markers to go on top of the vehicles. Whether they buy the lettering to put on there or they just buy the tape themselves and do something to mark the top of these vehicles, I think that would be a much added benefit because um, there's no way to be able to tell that this vehicle is a police car or not unless you're able to see the spotlight sticking out on the side or the bumper, or depending on the angle, like I think maybe right here you can kind of see the light bar sticking out the side, but just looking at the top of the vehicle, like you can't tell that there's um, a light bar there. And you certainly don't get to see any flashy lights. Maybe from this angle, now that the contrast has changed a little bit, you can now see the facing of this light. And I would say that the reason why we're starting to see this contrast right now is probably because the LEDs inside this bar are warming up the plastic film or little plastic. Um, yeah, I've lost my words. It's heating it up and it's warming up, and you start to see it turning white. But anyway, just a little tidbit, kind of, hey, they should use this kind of thing.
It's 29
Now,
minutes
for the
per
majority of
hour.
the agencies out there and majority of the companies out there, like talking about this means nothing to you because you don't have helicopters. There's only so many agencies out there that have helicopters, but of them that I've watched, maybe it's just something that some of them they don't fully realize or whatever. Maybe they just don't think they need it, but I think that it would do them good to put thermal markers on the roof. That way the thermal cameras can pick it out very easily. Anyway, so they come to a stop, and old dude bails out of the vehicle.
All right,
And he's kind of slow to begin with. That replay.
The suspects are going to be driving a...
All right, 2 are out, running northbound.
And what's interesting is he took the time to open the door, but then he takes the time to close the door.
All right, 2.
So that probably, I would say that was definitely not a conscious decision. Like this guy's going to bail out of the vehicle and he's like, oh, I need to close this door before I take off running. So this right here is a good view into how when you do something repetitively over and over and over and over, you do it without even thinking about it. So this kind of jumps us into talking about training scars. And this is how training scars are developed. You do something over and over and over and over and over, and it becomes muscle memory. This guy, throughout his entire life, I mean, he may have jumped out of a car and ran maybe once before in his life, but I don't think he's jumping out of the car and running every single day of his life. When this guy's not in jail or in prison, when he's in a car driving around, the majority of the time, he gets out and closes the door and does his thing. When you do that over and over and over, it's muscle memory. So when this guy is intentionally running from the police and bailing from them, he closes the door. Like, actually takes that time to close the door before continuing to run off. That serves him no useful purpose. Like, that doesn't help him get away any faster. But it's just something that the brain does when you do something over and over and over again. You will do that even in stress, even in a fight or flight situation. You will do that because it is something that you've always done. So, training scars, the things that we do repetitively can come back to bite us in a fight or flight kind of scenario. And so I would caution you to look at what you're doing in your training, whether it be your firearms training, your taser training, your defensive tactics training, whatever. Look at those things that you're doing and ask yourself, is this benefiting me any? For example, um, let's say, you're doing uh, medical training, and you've got a training tourniquet, and you are given this tourniquet to keep on your body, and the drill starts, and you put the tourniquet on. You do it really good, but then you start to take it off, and you do this multiple times throughout the year or throughout the couple years or whatever. There's a possibility that if you actually in real life have to use it, as soon as you put that tourniquet on, because you have always put it on, tighten it, and then taken it off right immediately afterwards, there's a possibility that you could tighten that thing on and then start to loosen it right after you put it on. Now, that's a pretty drastic view on it. And a lot of people would probably have a harder time believing that one, saying, I don't know about that. So when you go back into your firearms training, and this is one that will be, people will say, no, 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 that didn't happen. No, that happened. No, that's not right. That's wrong. Whatever. Um, there was a story out of California where some California police officers had went to go stop a vehicle, and there were two guys in it, two bad guys, and they had shot at some people or something like that, or robbed someone. I can't remember the exact details of it, but these two police officers in a car, they make the stop, and this was like way, way back in the day, like the 70s or something, and they go to make a stop, and gunfight happens. Well, back then, of course, everyone carried revolvers, and these officers on the road, um, they got into a gunfight, and then when they went empty, they ejected the brass into their hand, and then put it in their pocket before going to their reload. And they did this because over several years of firearms training at the police department, when they were on the range, they put the brass in their pocket after shooting because at the end of training, they didn't want to spend all that time being bent over or kneeling down picking up empty brass, which almost every gun range, I say almost every gun range out there, when you get done shooting, you have to pick up the empty brass. And many police departments ranges, you get done with training, you go pick up the brass. So to alleviate, all that extra time or whatever, so they could just do their qualifications and get moving, get going on down the road instead of picking up brass this whole time, they would empty the brass into their hand and then put it in their pocket and then reload. Well, when they got into a gunfight, they did exactly how they trained. They fired all 6 rounds out of the revolver, and then went to go eject the brass. And instead of just letting the brass fall and hit the ground and then reaching for the reload and putting it in. They put the brass in their hand, stuffed it in their pocket, and then went to the reload. And the story goes that I think 2 of them died, I believe. 1 was injured. The 2 that were dead, they found empty brass in their pockets. And I believe that the story goes, one of them, the gun was empty and brass was in his pocket. And so he had died putting that brass in his pocket before he can even get his gun reloaded and back in the fight. Now, as I said, people will say that didn't happen and whatnot. I'm not here to say it did or didn't, but that is one of the stories that has been shared over and over and time again within the firearms training community and the law enforcement community. And training scars are real and they do exist. So whether you believe in some stories or not, you really need to look at how you're doing your training and identify training scars and don't repeat those training scars. Even, not just for, people working, even for regular people, armed citizens. You're at the range. Instead of taking that time to, carefully eject a magazine out of your pistol and lay it on the table and then put another magazine in, what you should be doing instead of that is just let that empty magazine fall out and hit the ground and then put your new magazine in. And instead of using your carry magazines or whatnot, buy a couple extra magazines for training purposes only. That way you can drop them on the ground and not worry if they break or not. Anyway, a little too much time on that. Just know that things that you do over and over and over multiple times can lead into muscle memory. And when it comes to training, that can be training scars. So work to avoid training scars. Moving on.
You are out running northbound towards El Cajon.
On 54th Street.
10 for running or
There'll be a 245 shooting.
running with the gun in his hand northbound towards alcohol.
008.
All right, just getting. Still running westbound, coming up to. Still westbound, south curve line, right by the Cafe Blend.
Westbound south curve line by the Cafe Glen.
Looks like a short sleeve shirt, shorts, and a baseball hat. Still has a gun in his hand.
With a gun in his hand.
Officers are confirming.
All right, still westbound, the south curve line, north curve line, El Cajon Boulevard.
North curve line, El Cajon Boulevard.
Fast food
with
lot,
the cross
cops
street.
are in pursuit.
Units are behind them, still running northbound in the parking lot to the fast food restaurant. Can't get to any of it now.
So here for the.
Northbound in the parking lot.
3 units behind him, still making his way eastbound behind the business.
I think the units are okay with it.
Eastbound.
Now on the east side of the business, wrapping back towards El Cajon Boulevard.
Your phone?
114
Yeah, I'll grab it.
back
Hold on.
towards CCV.
This is the Yoshinoya. He's just running around this building here. 3 officers in pursuit. West side now.
On the west.
Okay, so unfortunately, because of the position of the rotary wing aircraft
3
here,
officers in pursuit.
we lose track of him when he comes around this corner. And when we pick up visual back on him, he's right over in here.
West side now.
On the west side.
So here he is going in between the drive-thru and these people. The video that you see from this guy's camera angle is he yells, "Don't point that at me." And I'll get to that here in a little bit. But this guy is obviously, at this point, after he's dropped his gun and picked it back up, it's pointed at this officer, and this officer has verbalized, "Don't point it at me." So he could already have been shot at this time. And I would argue should have.
Running through the drive-thru, just tripped and fell.
I'm sorry, he fell right here.
Well, 3 units are on him.
So yeah, this is where he starts yelling, "Don't point it at me." Now this guy he's lost all visual for the most part. I mean, he may have been able to see through some of these windows, but I would say for the most part, he's lost pretty much all visual of what this guy's positioning is until he gets obviously into position to see him again. And then he was so
Just tripped and
close.
fell. 3 units are on him.
10-4.
I'm going to pause it.
Sir, just tripped and fell. 3 units are on him.
10-4.
That gun is in his hand, which is blocked by his head right now. And this officer is so close. I mean, as this officer was coming up, this guy, he could have very easily just, as soon as he got up and made, notice of this officer, just started shooting and hit him. At this point, this guy could have been shot. And I would argue should have been shot.
Still running. Now we're going to be on the north side. He's given up now. Proned out on the north side of the business. Through the gun.
So,
We're going to be on the north.
This guy comes in.
North side. He's given up now.
You'll see him shoot. Pay attention to him.
Proned out on the north side of the business.
You see the brass coming out. Now I want to direct your attention to down in this area where the cursor's moving. I'll back it up and hit play again.
Now we're going to be on the north side. He's given up now. Proned out on the north side of the business. Through the.
So something went flying, and so that would tell me that
north side. He's
one of his rounds missed.
Proned out on the north side of the business.
And he's hit something on the ground and sent
now we're going to be
flying.
on the north side. He's given up now. Proned out on the north side of the.
You see some of it start to fly.
The business.
Ah, dang it. Back it up.
Now we're going to be on the north side. He's given up now. Proned out on the north side of the business.
Yeah, so you just see those chunks flying. So whenever he fired, one of the rounds missed, and whatever he hit on the ground, chunks went flying. I highly doubt it was chunks of the person. This handguns don't do that.
Through the gun.
But even at this such a close distance, he still missed one round, and that's typical. You see that a lot.
Or he threw the gun and he used his.
Shots fired.
Shots fired. Shots fired.
Shots fired. We're going to be on the north side of the Yoshino.
All right. Now we'll go back into the body camera footage.
Don't move! Get on the ground! Get on the ground! Drop the gun!
Yeah, so he fell this first time here.
Don't move!
I don't know what that thunk noise was.
Don't move! Get on the ground! Get on the ground! Drop the gun! Get on the ground! Drop the gun! Drop the gun! Don't point it out! Drop the gun! Drop the gun! Don't point it out! Drop the gun! Drop the gun! Don't point it at me!
Don't point it at me. So he's pointing the gun back at him, and he decides to yell at him, "Don't point the gun at me." I don't know about you, but I think I would have been saying that a little bit differently. I would have been conveying that message in gunshots. This is an issue to me. If this guy has pointed a gun at a police officer, then that's it. Like, you're done. That's a green light for the officer to utilize deadly physical force. If someone points a gun at you, you don't say, "Don't point the gun at me." You don't waste your breath. You don't waste your time verbalizing that. You make them not point that gun at you. You fucking shoot them. The fact that this officer had a gun pointed at him and he did not shoot, that's an issue to me. This officer needs to be under review, in my opinion. Someone points a gun at you, that's it. There's no more talking to that person. You meet deadly physical force with deadly physical force. There is no de-escalating. If that guy had decided to pull that fucking trigger, there's no amount of fucking verbal judo that officer could have pulled out his ass to stop that fucking bullet from hitting him. When their gun is pointed at you, you fucking shoot.
Drop the gun! Drop the gun!
Yeah. And looks like, possibly, the trigger finger is inside the trigger. This guy he is ready to shoot. This officer is in perfect positioning to dump rounds into him. And he should have, at this point, dump rounds into him. He should have been able, I would say should have been able to hear the other officer scream, "Don't point your gun at me." Now, he could have been experiencing auditory exclusion during this fight or flight kind of scenario. That's a possibility. But the big glaring issue here is he comes around this corner. This dude is up, and he's got his gun up as well, and trigger finger inside the trigger guard. Now, that might not be something that he could very acutely tell from his position and everything happening so quickly, but this guy's got a gun. And so this officer, in my opinion, he was in a great shooting position. He should have shot at this point.
Drop the weapon! Drop the weapon! Drop the weapon! Get on the ground! Get on the ground! Stop! 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 Guys, get back! Slow it down, slow it down! Guys, get back! Slow it down, slow it down!
All right. So you hear him slow down, slow it down. So they're thinking about their corners.
Stop!
So once this guy, he's disappeared around the corner, he very well could have stopped a few feet past this corner and then turned around and wait to ambush as soon as one of these officers comes around the corner.
Guys, get back!
This guy, he's in a better position to pie the corner, whereas this guy, he gets a little too close to the corner, in my opinion.
Slow it down, slow it down!
And it's hard to tell from this angle, but this officer being this close to the wall makes him a larger target for anyone around the corner, whereas
Stop! Guys, get back!
the officer over here coming around this angle, he's further away from the corner. Therefore, when he pies the corner, there should be less of him seen, and thus, less of a target presenting itself to the adversary. And without, being able to splice in another video and doing a demonstration on how to pie corners or whatever, that could be a whole nother video in of itself. But that's something that you need to be mindful of, is coming on corners. In an area like this where you got the room to be able to go further out and then pie that corner, do so, because who's to say that this guy couldn't have just stopped a few feet past the corner over here and just put the gun pointed right here, and then as soon as you full charge blow past that corner right into his sights, lights you up.
Slow down!
When he said slow it down, he had that mindset of, hey, just don't go around that blind corner.
Get on the ground! Get on the ground! Get on the ground! Stop the gun!
So he drops his can of OC, and almost drops his gun. We'll hit that replay.
Ground! Down on the ground! Down! Down on the ground! Stop the gun!
Boom, fall. You know, this happens. It's not very graceful looking. It's kind of embarrassing sometimes. But hey, shit happens. I've fallen before.
Ground! Down on the ground! Down! Down on the ground! Stop the gun!
Hell, I remember chasing a guy once, and it was at nighttime and running, and I hit the trailer hitch. No, not the hitch. Not on the truck part, but the trailer part itself. Like there's a trailer sitting out, and I hit that hitch part, the tongue that sticks out, and I hit that son of a bitch so fucking hard, I went tumbling, and I think I made a pretty good recovery. I was able to get back up, but damn, like, you know, it happens. Now, I was trying to pause it to see trigger finger positioning. But this is where, and you can see there's light showing through nice through the trigger here, or trigger guard. That's good trigger finger discipline. Now, if he had had his finger inside that trigger guard, there could have been a negligent discharge at this point. And they're in the driveway and there's people in front of them. This is where trigger discipline is super, super important. Sometimes you could fall to the ground. And if your finger is inside that trigger, you could inadvertently discharge the weapon. And who knows where that round's going, right? Now, with most agencies and companies out there, I say most, there's, with the firearms training that's out there, trigger finger discipline is, for the most part, acceptable. Now, there's been cases, of course, where there was some bad trigger finger discipline and a round was negligently discharged. For regular people, armed citizens, you've got to keep your booger hook off the bang switch. Index your finger onto the slide itself. If you can, if you're a right-handed shooter, if you can lift your trigger finger up and put the pad of your finger, at the ejection port area, or on the border between the slide and the frame and rest it there and keep it there, then that's great. Like, that's where your finger needs to be all the time until you make that conscious decision to shoot. The OC pouch. So I'm not sure why his OC came out. I don't know what kind of gear he's got set up.
Ground! Down on the ground! Down on the ground! Stop the gun!
So it didn't look like he had his left hand full with it. He did go to a two-handed firing grip on his pistol right before he fell. So it's possible that, he was using an open top pouch. They didn't have a flap on it. I don't know. I don't know what kind of gear he was using, but he lost his OC can in the middle of this fall. Now, whether or not he recognized he lost it, I have no idea. It doesn't appear as though he does, because he never recovers it, or he recognized he lost it but said, to hell with trying to grab it. I'm not worried about it. There's this situation in hand doesn't even require me to utilize this type of less lethal option. But when it comes to securing your gear, I'm not the biggest fan a lot of times of open top pouches, because things can easily come out otherwise. Pick your gear wisely. And he could have had a flap top on his carrier, and the snap could have been, or the Velcro could have been unfastened, and then it came out. But I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. You can't see what kind of gear he has on. So you can even hear from this guy's perspective. This guy over here yelling, "Don't point it at me." We should have been hearing gunshots by now.
Drop the gun now! Shots fired, shots fired. Drop the gun now! Shots fired, shots fired. Shots fired, shots fired. Drop the gun! Get on the ground! Drop the gun! Drop the gun! Don't point at me! Drop the gun! Drop the gun! Drop the gun, I will shoot! Drop the gun now! Shots fired, shots fired. Shots fired, shots fired. Get your hands behind your back! Hands behind your back! Hands behind your back! Hands behind your back! Hands on, roll over. Roll over now! Go hands on. Go hands on. Hold on, just wait.
So this officer has the mindset to put on BSI, bodily substance isolation. Anytime you're dealing with someone that has bodily fluids on them or coming out of them, you have to assume that they have some type of blood-borne pathogen. When you're dealing with criminals who do not make the best decisions in life, you have to assume that prior to whatever it was that they were doing that was not that, wise decision to do, that prior to this, they made other unwise decisions like unprotected sex with a crack whore who has AIDS, or the unwise decision to use a needle to shoot up heroin that someone else had already previously used before them, and they've got AIDS. If there's any kind of fluid, bodily fluid, that's on someone or coming out of them, you have to assume that it's tainted, that there's some type of bloodborne pathogen in it. You need to always wear gloves when dealing with people covered in fluids. That's a must. You don't want to take anything home with you. So this officer has the right mindset to put these gloves on.
Kill your stomach!
But he rushes in before even getting the other glove on. He should have waited to make sure that he was fully protected so he doesn't bring any bloodborne pathogen home and then infect his family.
31.
This officer has the right mindset to get a better angle and to provide this lethal cover while these officers attempt to put him into mechanical restraints.
Rolling medic, subject hit.
So this guy had a malfunction. The trigger had been pulled, and there's a round in the chamber, but for whatever reason, his gun didn't fire. Did this occur when he was falling on the ground, and because he did not have good trigger finger discipline, his finger was inside that trigger guard when he fell, and he inadvertently pulled that trigger? Or did he at some point, when he was pointing the gun at the officer, pull the trigger and nothing happened? Don't know. Don't know when this occurred. Thankfully, the gun didn't work. Or perhaps the particular round he had in there, the ammo, didn't work. Don't know. But a round in the chamber, trigger was pulled, the gun could have gone off. Like that round could have been intended for that one officer who said, "Don't point it at me," or it could have, you know, negligently discharged and ricocheted off the ground and hit a pregnant nun, you know, or hit a little blind bunny, whatever. The danger there was real. Now, there is an attachment on the bottom of this gun, and looking at the size of this, it makes me think it's a flashlight, but it could very well be a laser. I know a lot of these street thugs, they have a fascination with beams, is what they refer to them as. Um, they like the laser beams on the pistols for some reason. I don't fully understand it, but it's something they're fascinated with. Um, or it could be a flashlight. I can't tell. This obviously is not um, a device made by a reputable manufacturer. It's definitely not a Surefire or a Streamlight piece of equipment. It almost looks like that cheap ass company called NC Star, I think it's called. Two other guns on this guy. I'm sorry, in the car that he was in, and that these guns were involved in shootings. These people were up to no good. Obviously, they were shooting at people. They're a danger to society. They're a menace to society. Now it's interesting. Ghost guns. So we hear, from time to time, these politicians talking about ghost guns, and there's the famous video of the ghost gun talk from the elected official in California. I can't remember his name. He's the one talking about 30 clip ghost gun or something, whatever. He's stupid. But you always hear them talk about ghost guns, ghost guns, ghost guns, ghost guns, and I'm guessing this must be really more of a California thing, because I've noticed in a lot of these videos coming out of California where they show pictures of these ghost guns and they talk about the ghost guns. Um, and I'm sure this stuff could be occurring elsewhere, um, but the bulk of it I'm seeing is California, and but they're really big on wanting to say they're unregistered ghost guns. Yeah. That could be a whole nother rant in of itself, and I'll save you that rant. But I'm not sure if the criminals are making these, because I've seen some criminals who are kind of smart and could maybe figure out how to do all this stuff, but there's other ones, man. I mean, they're as dumb as a box of rocks, and um, thinking that they could put together a whole gun and everything. Um, I don't know. I don't know if it's the criminals making these guns or if like regular gun people are making these things and they're just getting stolen. I don't know what the case is. I really wish that they would do an investigation into this kind of stuff or study and try to figure out where these things are originating from. Like I don't know. Just me personally. I just don't see the common thug, the common criminal being able to you know build their own gun, so to speak. I'm not saying they can't do it. I mean, some of them are smart enough to be able to do it, but I'm kind of leaning more towards the likelihood that it's the gun people making these things, and they're doing common shit that common gun people do, like leave their damn gun in an unlocked car, or they leave their gun in the middle console that doesn't even have a lock on it to begin with, and then someone breaks in the car and steals the damn thing. That's where I think, these are coming from, because that's where most of the stolen guns on the streets come from anyway, is assholes who don't properly store their firearms when they're unattended. So, anyway, that concludes the video. Not much to say about this video other than when it got to the point where this officer
Drop the gun!
right here.
Drop the gun! Drop the gun! Don't point it at me!
Yeah. When someone points the gun at you, you don't verbalize, "Hey, don't point it at me." You make them not point it at you, and that you do that by using deadly physical force. That's really my only real true gripe about this video, is seeing that right there. That yeah, that gets me. If you like what you see and hear, go ahead and give me a like and a share. If you have not already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more Monday quarterback videos. Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense, thank you for watching.